Hey mini enthusiasts, how you doing? Welcome back. I hope you're well and I hope you're having a great day. Today we are back on Project Bruce. Before we get into that though, I did want to give some announcements and give you a bit of an update. So if you want to cut past the waffle, I've timestamped this video. If you look in the description, you can fast forward to the relevant section and get stuck into the action. So the bits I want to update you on. So as I mentioned in a previous video, the plan is to have Project Bruce finished on the 13th of March for the mini fair run by the British Mini Club at Bingley Hall in Stafford. So that's a 200-mile drive for me. So that's quite an ask. And as you can see in today's footage, there is a huge amount that still needs to be done before then. As you might have guessed, I am a little bit ahead in the footage. So the footage you're seeing today was filmed 2 weeks ago. However, within the last 2 weeks, I've also done a conversion on Project Kit. So I've converted Project Kit from a 1275 SPI injection automatic car into a 1380cc carburetted manual car. So that's taken up pretty much a week of my time. So I guess net, I am a week ahead of the footage you see today on Project Bruce. Now that seems like a massive ask to get Project Bruce ready, MOT'd, painted, all built back up, ready for mini fair. And ordinarily it would be. However, I'm going through a bit of a life event at the moment. Don't worry, it's all for good. I'm changing careers. Now that means I am on gardening leave at the moment. Now gardening leave is, as it says, I could be out doing the garden, but it's not really that time of year. I could be in the house decorating, or I can be in the garage working on the projects and doing what I love. So my focus for the next 4 weeks until mini fair is going to be on Project Bruce. So yes, there is a huge amount done. I'm pretty confident I'm going to be able to do it. There are a few uncertainties at the moment. So as far as getting it all built back up, getting all the structural stuff done, getting it mechanically right is not too much of a worry. However, this car hasn't been driven properly for at least 10 years. So as you know, I've done the head gasket on the engine. The engine was seized originally. It's not really run or done any meaningful mileage for a long time now. So fingers crossed, as long as that doesn't crop up any major concerns or issues, I'm pretty confident I'll be able to get it done. I also wanted to update you on the budget, which I've included towards the end of this video. So I'll talk about how much it has cost so far to get the budget restoration done. And the plan really was to restore this car on a budget of about £1,500. So it cost me £2,000 to buy the car, £1,500 restoring it. And as I've said right from the start of this build series, I am going to sell this car on to a subscriber of the channel for basically what it has cost me, what it's cost me to buy the car and what it's cost me in parts and consumables. My time is completely free. Now I'll give an update on the budget towards the end of the video, but I forgot to talk about the amount of hours I've put into it. Now my time is free, but obviously it is interesting because if this is a restoration that you were getting a garage to do, you're going to be paying an hourly rate there. So up to this point today in this video, I've spent about 80 hours working on the car, and I reckon in total we're going to be up around about 150, maybe even 175 hours. So I guess I'm just over halfway through the restoration at the moment, or what I think it is anyway. So aside from that, a quick apology. Sorry about the giveaway video. The scammers latched on to giveaway in the title, and yeah, what can I say really? It's really disappointing, really frustrating. I've done as much as I could straight away. I literally reported hundreds of posts to YouTube, and hopefully we stopped that. It is disappointing that you can't just do a genuine giveaway like that without people and scammers catching on to it. And I actually think the term scammers is too light a term for these people. What they're effectively doing is they're thieves and they're trying to steal from people, and they're doing it to hundreds of people at a time. If there was a thief in the middle of the street trying to pickpocket hundreds of people, they'd find themselves in prison. But unfortunately, these people that sit behind computers and are faceless, they just seem to get away with it, and it's so frustrating. However, let's not get too much of a downer on that. Let's get into Project Bruce and let's get it finished. Thanks for joining back in and watching the videos. Cheers all. Bye.
Right, let's get into stripping this subframe down. So the first thing I'm doing here is just going around all the nuts and bolts, giving them a good dosing of penetrating oil. And then obviously while I'm starting to strip down, that's got a good period of time to soak in, start penetrating, and hopefully making the nuts and bolts easier to come out. So the plan at the moment here is potentially to reuse this subframe, maybe repair it, so I don't want to have to be repairing a load of captive nuts as well. Now this subframe, all the components on it will have a full mechanical overhaul. I'm not sure about the brakes yet, I haven't had a look at them, but if it needs shoes and cylinders, I'll be replacing them. Be looking at the metal brake pipes and replacing them with conifer brake pipes if they're corroded or look like they're corroded. We've got new rear flexible brake hoses to go on, new handbrake cable, and I think we'll probably end up doing both radius arms on the back. The rear donuts, cones and knuckles, the donuts don't look too bad, so I will probably be reusing them, but I think everything else will get a good thorough going over anyway. Now, like I say, as I go through this, I tend to try and be careful, and there is a good chance I'll be replacing this subframe, but like I say, I don't want to condemn it yet until I've had a better look, so I'm being really careful just to make sure I don't break anything. As things come off, I always tend to keep them together, so I'll keep all the bits off the near side together, all the bits off the off side together. Obviously some of the parts like the radius arms are sided, but the trunnions, the actual subframe mounts themselves can go on either side, but always just to like keep them or replace them back on the same side, just for a bit of continuity, to be honest. And sometimes you can have issues where you swap stuff left to right. Generally, any restoration work I do, I always keep all the old parts right until the very end of the restoration, right until it's finished. Sometimes you just need to go back and measure things. Sometimes the replacement parts are not quite as good as the old parts, and particularly with body panels, bits that are cut out, I think it's always very important to keep hold of them, because quite often find yourself having to go back and reference where stuff is, where brackets were fitted, how the panel fitted, measure things and just make sure they look right. You'll see I've got the Rothenberg Spitfire blowtorch out there. Works really well, that. I'm using MAP gas in it, which I think burns a little bit hotter than propane, but it's certainly pretty effective. You know, if a bolt doesn't come out, feels like it's going to break, always try a bit of heat on it, because generally the rate at which metal expands, if you apply a little bit of heat to it, it can make a massive difference and prevents you from breaking a load of bolts. And it works pretty effective, that blowtorch with that MAP gas. Doesn't take long to get even big sort of 3/4 inch nuts and bolts up to the point that they're cherry red. Now, from what I can see, this is the first time this subframe had ever been out. It had the fibre pads on the top of the subframe, exactly the same as I saw when I took the subframe out of Project TARDIS, so no reason to think this subframe has been out before. And certainly, judging by all the crud that was around it, it certainly didn't look like it. There were certain bits of it where the underseal had been oversprayed onto it and it had actually, again, preserved it pretty well. But you can imagine what the corners in the corners of the subframe were like, where the radius arm goes and all the grease collects. It was horrendous. There was a huge amount of grease there, so quite a messy job this. So that's both sides stripped now. Like I say, all the componentry on it will get a good mechanical makeover. Just removing the last trunnion now. And then we'll have a look at the moment in a moment and see what the actual subframe itself is like. As you can see from here, that is the underside of it, and in areas where that underseal has been, it doesn't look too bad at first glance.
Right, so that's that subframe stripped. My God, it was really messy. I was thinking to myself that I might be able to save this subframe, because when you look at it, again, it's the same as like on the rest of the car, where it's had this really thick underseal on it. It's in amazing condition underneath. And when I first looked at it from underneath, what I saw was this patch here. And I thought, oh, the subframe's just probably wrecked and it's not a very well welded on patch. Obviously, when I look a little bit closer, we've got another hole in the corner here. I'm not sure what the repair light there is underneath like. On the other side, we've got the same problem, and this is ironic. This is the reason it's got these holes here and it's had one here, is there's a drain hole here which is meant to let the water out to stop it collecting in the cavity between the subframe. But where they've sprayed this underseal on, it's actually blocked up that cavity, so water's been sitting in there. Same on the other side. But on closer inspection of this, the more I look, I think it's just shot. So when I start looking inside here, I mean, you can get a repair section for the bottom, but it's no good putting a repair section on when the middle bit's like that as well. And that's just rotten. And it's like that on both sides, I think. Yeah, when I start looking inside here again, so this bit in the middle has gone. So although in certain areas it's in really good condition, in other areas it's really bad. Yeah, so all down the bottom of here is holed all the way along. It's just where water's sat. So unfortunately, as I say, I was really hoping I would maybe be able to get away with the subframe, because it's difficult. Well, they're expensive to buy new and it's difficult to find good second-hand ones. In fact, I've not found one yet. They're all either patched up, heavily corroded, bent and twisted. So I don't know what I'm going to do. Sod's law, ironically. And I was a little bit careful, but I managed to get every bolt out without snapping them. And some of them, you can see that the ends are just corroded away completely. I mean, look at the shoulder on that. But yeah, I've got them all out. Which really doesn't matter, because the subframe's going to scrap anyway. Right, time for another quick parts haul and a top up of the budget. So, unfortunately, the budget has been completely and utterly blown apart this week. So I have a pair of rear Magnum closing panels. As Mark pointed out, actually, the M Machine do these pattern ones, but they don't come with the additional strengthening plate on, I don't think. I'm sure you can probably ask them to add it, but the Magnum ones come with the strengthening plate on. So I've got a pair of them. Of course, I've got a Magnum rear valance as well, so that needed replacing. I have a boot seal trim, the boot rubber, It's the earlier type boot rubber with the metal clips. I don't actually know. I think, can you fit the later type boot rubber on an earlier Mini? Because it might have been easier, to be honest, because these clips are a bit of a pain. But hey ho, is what it is. And I've got a rear fog lamp bracket as well, because obviously the one that was on the car just corroded to pieces. And then in this box here, can you guess what it is yet? God, I can't get into it. Wow. I think my blade must be blunt. So, as you can see, in here we have a brand new subframe. It's not a genuine subframe. It's, I don't know who makes it actually. It's not, I don't think it's a Magnum one, but it's pretty well finished, to be honest. I mean, it's just in the black primer. I was in two minds about paint. I don't think I'm going to paint it actually. It's, you know, that'll be another 50 quid in paint. So the finish on it is actually pretty good. It's got the radius arm brackets on it. As I say, it is a non-genuine one. And why did I get it? Well, I kind of put out a bit of an appeal, didn't I, a few weeks ago, asking for a rear subframe. And to be fair, a couple of the viewers did contact me, and one of the viewers offered me a subframe for free. But it was right up in Ipswich, which is quite a long way for me, and it needed some repairs on it. It needed some work, so that was very generous. I do thank you very much for that. Every other subframe I looked at was either bent, twisted, rotten as a peach, patched up, broken bolts, or just too expensive. There's people that are asking nigh on 200 quid for a second-hand bare subframe. Brand spanking new from Mini Spares, this cost me £263 delivered to the front door. So yeah, it's a big, it's I think the single most biggest expense on the project. But it needed doing. I couldn't patch up the old one, and as I say, it just seemed pointless buying a second-hand one when I was probably buying one which was worse than the one I've taken off. Now, I didn't get this from Bull Motif. I did look at Bull Motif's prices, and they were their subframes, I don't know what make they are, where they source them from, but they were about, I think it was about £60 more expensive, £50–60 more expensive. And they did say to me at some point, you know, if you ever want to phone back and you need an offer on something, let us know. But I thought it's probably a bit cheeky asking them to go down to sort of £250. So yeah, just big items like this, it was always worth just shopping around, because no doubt either Mini Spares sell these very, very cheap, or they've obviously just managed to get a batch at a good price. So I'll work out the budget, what we're on now. I'm going to put it up there. It's a bit eye-watering, but I think we're still on target to finish the car for around about 3.5, which means I've spent £1,500 restoring it, which isn't a lot of money at all considering what's been done on the car.